Thank you very much for joining today. My name is Oliver McComb. I am one of the WEM success specialists here at Zendesk, focusing on Zendesk QA. And of course, if you're joining us today, it is for the third part in our three-part series of implementing Zendesk QA, and very happy to present this piece, as this is the AI and supercharging your use of the platform. So if you've been to the other two sessions, fantastic, you're familiar with how everything works. If, on the other hand, this is a first time and you're catching after having seen the recordings, please feel free to push all your questions via the Q&A section. It's been enabled, so you'll see it down at the bottom of your screen. The chat, of course, can be used for sort of fun conversations you'd like to have, but if you post in the Q&A, I will be able to address these. We have time at the end. Also, my colleague has just arrived at the perfect moment, so the wonderful Inej Davim is here to also answer questions in real time as we go. So, we think a lot of value comes from attending the webinars, but especially because it gives you a chance to interact with other users and ask questions in real time. And you have not just one subject matter expert for QA, but two. So please, any and all questions, do post them. And with that, I will begin. I'm going to jump into Zendesk QA. So here we go. Hopefully you're all able to see my screen. I'm just going to confirm. Yep, I can see it there too. If any hiccups, let us know. And of course, we are recording this session. So we might cover a few things that we have covered before, but obviously this is the AI thread and narrative that we will be discussing today. So we're going to be looking at how you can leverage AI to relieve some of the more basic tasks, implement strategies that will help really scale and give you, an unrivaled coverage, and boost your then free time or kind of gained back time as a human reviewer to perform more critical tasks and kind of constructing your agents. So looking here at the conversations view, I think we'll see spotlights straight away. We can also notice there's auto QA reviews. This is all fantastic stuff. But now we're going to begin by taking a look behind the scenes at how to set all of this up. So as we know, our settings tab, where we've started our journey from the very, very first webinar to where we're arriving today. And as long as we are an admin or an account manager, we'll be able to see the account settings. So we leverage the scorecards, but first we want to come and just understand more about what AI categories and insights are available to us. So we come into this AI section. Now we're going to be looking at a feature that is in early access today. You can sign up. There is a sign up sheet that we will post in the chat. The scheduled date for general availability is actually the end of this month. So everything you're seeing, if you haven't already signed up, you will have access to end of this month, start of next. But we will post the EAP. So if you'd like, you can sign up. And what happens is Inej and I, we run through that sheet. And once we've seen that you've signed up, we activate it on your account. So if it looks a bit strange what I'm showing you right now, please don't panic. You'll be able to sign up for this and have access to it, as well as look back with the recording. But this is the really big bet. This is what we're looking at when we talk about custom prompts. So we're going to begin by looking in the AI section and finding out, is it a category or a spotlight? So we want to understand first, what's the difference? A category is very much the review process, the assessment of agent behavior. Categories you'll be familiar with. They are what appear on our scorecard, and it is what we're using to evaluate the agent behavior and grade or score as part of our quality process. An example of some of these here as it relates to AI is agent knowledge confidence, data retention policy, compliance, greeting, acknowledgement, professionalism, etc. And then we have spotlights, and spotlights are more of a discovery tool. So as you'll have seen through using the platform, the categories are for grading and the spotlights are more of an AI tag on the ticket. What we see here is that it's after analyzing the ticket content, the AI has highlighted something rather than grading an agent behavior. Both are great because they can be used as a filter condition. So we can pull out for our assignments or just general filters these AI topics we're applying. But for example, spotlight might be, repeat contact, customer repeated question as it relates to the bot, drug complaints, product feedback, obviously a really useful one. So not like grading the agent behavior, but saying, hey, this is something that's quite pertinent to the ticket, and we'd be interested in finding. Now we understand those two, we're going to see even more exciting the different types of ways we can formulate these as it relates to AI. So you'll be familiar with manual categories. Those are the ones where we give them a name, we give them a quick description, and then we would have to manually assess whether that's been completed or not. Now we're looking, as it relates for categories, into the 3 AI types that we can leverage. So system categories, you'll probably remember from the very first webinar. Also, if you've used this tool previously or if you've attended other webinars, system categories, these are 8 out-of-the-box categories that are trained centrally by our machine learning team. I say this because system categories don't learn from your input. How we can learn is, by making feedback to our team, so either via a support ticket or by contacting your account representatives and just saying, hey, we've noticed there's an issue here. But it isn't able to say, okay, if I've scored greeting as negative and AI scores as positive, it's not going to learn to implement that. And that's intentional because the amount of data needed to meaningfully impact change is obviously much greater than even all of our users working together could do. Plus, there's a lot of time and resource needed. So what we'll see actually with custom prompt is we've sort of skipped that and gone straight to have it your way. But it's important that we understand the system categories because these are out of the box, they're ready to go, and they're quite focused on soft skills, but really useful when we implement them into our scorecards and grading. So we have 8 categories: as greeting, closing, comprehension, empathy, readability, solution offered, spelling and grammar, and tone. And what we want to understand here is, firstly, what are these analyzing? So we can see a bit of extra information here. Then we also need to be aware that these categories leverage OpenAI, so they're available in 100 plus languages. What's the exception? Readability, we only have available in English and Spanish at the moment, and this is because this is an in-house developed model, so it's using like our proprietary AI. Similarly to that, we have spelling and grammar, which has a reduced amount of languages as well. So spelling and grammar works in English, UK and US, French, Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, and Portuguese, the original Portuguese, Polish, and German. Please let us know if there's kind of categories you would like to add to this. We can't promise that it will be made available immediately, but we will store it in the product backlog. The reason for this is because spelling and grammar as well leverages some proprietary technology, and we also need available resource that someone has kind of broken down all the spelling and grammar rules and made that available somewhere on the internet. So these are reasons why you have limited languages for those 2 categories, but all the others, 100 plus languages out the box, ready to go, and a fantastic way to get to start using AI on your grading. The next type is exact text match and prompt based. And so what we're going to look at now is actually these are ones we create ourselves, because system is preset, but exact text match and prompt based are ones we create ourselves. So what we want to do is we want to come to create AI Insight. You'll see we have prompt based and exact text match. To begin with, exact text match, because it's a bit simpler, it's just like it says on the tin. We want to find exact words or phrases. So if the AI Insight name, for example, was discount coupon, and then did the agent share the coupon with customer, what we then need to look at now is actually if the agent message contains, and we need to type in the exact words we're looking for here. So let's imagine it's a summer sale. So maybe it's summer sale 50, and that's a 50% off coupon. We can also add an additional row. So maybe it's summer sale 25 for 25%. And we're just looking to see if any of these are there. Now, what it won't be able to do is if we've said summer sale and we haven't put that in, it's not intelligent enough to guess that, nor will it say, oh, I'm looking for a discount coupon. The words and phrases need to match exactly. So that's one of the reasons why text match can be fantastic for validating macros or exact words that need to be shared, but it doesn't have a lot of flexibility in there. And so what we can do is, if we're happy with this, we can choose how it would like to be scored, and we can have this either as a category on a scorecard. So we can add this to our scorecard and implement it, meaning from that moment, we won't retroactively, but moving forwards, we'll look for those messages where summer sale 50 or summer sale 25 is applied and grade them. Or we can use it as a spotlight, in which case it will pull out insights for us. So instead of a discount coupon, what might be interesting is competitor mention. And so we might be saying, did the customer use a competitor? My spelling has abandoned me, apologies. Use a competitor name. And so now let's imagine I run a sports shop, and I'm going to say if the client message contains any of Nike, Puma, Gymshark, then highlight this in the ticket. So it's also a great way to find kind of keywords and matches. You can also use the backslash to add a variable. So it might be like the text before or after it is ignored, meaning it gives you a bit more expanse, but it's quite rigid to the words and phrases that it's looking for. Quickly take a pause here just to make sure if that all makes sense before we dive into any of the really juicy auto QA pieces. No? Okay, lovely. Now the link I'm about to share in the chat, this is the access form for custom prompt that we're about to demo. So everything you've seen you have available, and if you would like the next step, please fill this in and we'll try to activate it within 24 to 48 hours. It will be available end of this month, start of next, if you're happy to wait. But if you're keen to get your hands on and start testing, please feel free to dive in and work with us as we develop the feature. So now we've seen system that is kind of trained by our teams and quite rigid. We've seen exact text match where you have control over what words you're searching for. But the frontier, shall we say, of AI-driven quality assurance is very much in prompt-based, and this has been the goal we've been striving towards since our inception many moons ago. So now what we're looking to do is essentially create either a category or a spotlight based on a prompt that we will set to the AI. So we can customize this entirely. So I can give it a name and a description. If I'm unsure about prompting and how best to structure it, I have links here. As well as that, some good prompting and AI insights and best practices for prompting. So we're trying to give as much content and information to make this as seamless a process as possible. We additionally have the prompt library. So to get my creative juices flowing, I might want to come in and see, again, we've broken these down into different industries, but that's not to say that if you're working in finance or if you're not working in finance, you can't use these. It's just where we thought they might be most recognizable. But you can take any of these prompts or spotlights to either use entirely or use as a base to build on. So let's go for one about security and consent verification. And we'll use that prompt. And so it's given us the name, it's given us the description. Did the agent verify that the client informed consent before proceeding with any actions that involve their personal data? Fantastic. If this meets our need, great. We can move forwards. If we want to add additional bits of context, make the prompt even clearer, we can do this. We can leverage an AI generative tool to help us refine the prompt, remembering there's a 2,000 character limit. But if we have a long, let's say, category or piece of content we're trying to assess, we can ask AI, a Claude, a Gemini, a ChatGPT to condense it for us and then use that in this prompt. And we've seen very good results from this. The next thing to do when we're happy with this, again, if we wanted to, we could add more, but I'm comfortable with my consent verification, is validate it. So we want to understand, will this work well as a category and or a spotlight? And so we can see that it works as both, which is great. What we'll often find is a category can work as a spotlight, but a spotlight can't always work as a category. And we'll see why in a second. But let's say I want this because I want this to be graded. So I want it to say whether yes or no the agent did or didn't do it. So I'm going to create that as a spotlight, as a category, sorry. And then we can create this category, remembering that when we create the category, we then need to go and add it to our scorecard for it to take effect. If we create the category, we could create a load of lovely categories, but if we don't add them to our scorecard and enable them in the workspace, they're not going to be running and doing the job for us. So that's one thing to remember. Create the category here. The next thing is if we would like this to be a spotlight. So let's use a more general example and see why it wouldn't work as a category, but let's say product feedback. And instead of asking about agent behavior, I'm just requesting find me tickets where the customer has complained about the product. Now, this, of course, could be written in a better way. So I wouldn't take this one. I'm sure in our prompt library, we have a much better product feedback prompt. But for example, we go through and we validate it, and we'll see that this could be used more as a spotlight rather than a category because we're not grading agent behavior. But what's great is this will flag on tickets where we do detect a complaint about the product and not the agent behavior. As well as that, we can use it as we know from other webinars and use the platform for our assignments and our filtering. So we can also pull out these product feedback tickets to then work further with. When we're happy and we've built and created everything we're looking forwards to, now we want to put this onto a scorecard that we'll use. So hopefully this is revisiting familiar territory, but we're going to, before, just run through some best practices, which I should share. When using custom prompts, we need to remember that we can have 10 live on the account at any one time. So that's important. This is just during this testing phase. If you have a use case as to why you would want more than 10, please let us know. We're just trying to understand where the sweet spot is. The reason that's important is because when we come here and we see everything, as long as it's active, it is using one of our 10 slots, even if it's not on a scorecard. So you can see in our account where we've made a lot of them and have an extended limit, we need to mark them inactive sometimes. So record and disclosure missing, follow-up missing. We might need to mark them as inactive to free up some space. Another best practice is the custom prompts will work in those 100+ languages as it leverages OpenAI. However, it responds best to the prompt being written in English. So regardless of what language tickets we're working on, if we can write the prompt in English, it returns better results, even if it's going on Spanish, on Arabic, on Polish tickets. If we can place it in English, fantastic, and all the better. And with those golden rules, we come back to our settings and visit our familiar friend of scorecards. And just as previously, when we either come to our old scorecard or if we go to make a new scorecard, because now we have a load of new categories. So let's call this AI webinar scorecard. And just as before, we want it to be in all workspaces and enabled with auto QA. And here we know so that until there's one auto QA category, it's not going to be doing any evaluating. We're not going to add any groups, but we're just going to add a few new ones. So agent knowledge confidence, we know that's a custom prompt, which is why we can only have it as yes, no, or NA. And then adding obviously the same weighting as previously. If we would like, we can also choose root causes. But what we want to do is just as before, pick and choose those different AIs, whether it's system, whether it's greeting, As you can see, I think these have been marked inactive from the back end as we saw about there, so I'd need to activate them. But we can keep adding the categories. Whenever we see the hologram, we know it's an AI category, and we can see the rating scale. And so we add them all in, we create our scorecard. Now the scorecard's live, so I actually think the categories should now be active. Perfect. And what we can see here is also what channels it's running on. So text means it's going to be running on all of our messengers, emails, and chats. Call means that if we are transcribing our calls within Zendesk, they're going to come to Zendesk QA, and it will also be evaluating the call transcription. The system categories, 6 of them are able to work on, or 5 of them, I believe, are able to work on call transcripts as well, which is fantastic. And we're gradually expanding our offering on custom prompt so that they will also start to do calls, and that's scheduled for the back end of this year. But as you can see, we add them to the scorecard, and from this moment now, every time we sync and bring in those new tickets, we're going to be evaluating them thanks to Auto QA. What does this look like in reality? So thankfully we have many more scorecards, and so I think our default Auto QA is a good one to look at. As we saw at the start, when we come in to a conversation view, so either in a normal ticket, in an assignment, we can see we have a scorecard with Auto QA active and enabled, and so it allows us to auto grade here. I believe spelling and grammar hasn't been done because this is a chatbot, so that's the reason why that wouldn't be there, so I can manually grade this. What we'll also see in the feedback tab is the spotlights that can be applied. So where we've noticed it, the custom prompt ones that we have live, we can see it's not detected any of them. So the LLM has analyzed it and the AI has said, no, we haven't detected any product feedback, risky customer, or legal action based on the prompt that we supplied. And of course, we can edit, delete, mark as inactive, change these prompts to best fit, even the categories as well. And as it's helping us with our grading, we can focus more on leaving some useful comments. But really importantly, we don't need to agree with any grading the AI does before submitting. So what we're going to see now is one of the reasons why system categories can't be edited, or how that looks. And so let's imagine I don't agree with the grading of some of these, which is fine. And then I can leave my comments, and now I submit my review for this conversation. I think that's gone. And so what we can see here is one review left by Nico, another review left by me. And so even though it's changed the score here, the Auto QA will not learn from this. It will still have graded it as it detected a solution. So that's one of the reasons why with custom prompt, if, for example, greeting doesn't match our definition of greeting, you can create your own called, greeting friendly or greeting v2 and use that instead. So rather than say, let's make everything, trainable and a learning experience, let's keep the system categories centrally trained so they're ready to use and can be scaled super quick. And then with the prompts, you can actually build out the most useful and effective ones for yourself. With this current version of the prompts, the question being posed should be something to do with the ticket content. So where we saw, age verification or consent validation, we would need to see that written somewhere so that it can analyze within the ticket content that, yes, this happened. If you have a background platform and a back-end system, the prompt won't be able to go and access that, nor can it open URLs. So we couldn't say, according to this knowledge base article and post a link, was the refund process followed? That isn't currently something that we're able to do. So just those things to be made aware of so that you can gain full benefit and bonus from this feature. And I will pause here now to see if there's been any questions or anything to handle. I can see no questions yet, so hopefully this means everything's making sense and this is a very exciting feature. But please, whilst we are here, this is a great chance to take advantage of having us kind of all to yourselves. But as we've seen here, we have the review. And so here is a great example of auto QA, because the bot won't get an auto QA review, but Rania, who has interacted on the ticket, she's been graded based on her interaction for these categories. And so she's been given 100%. And just as before, even if I disagree, entirely, you can see here the comparison. Auto QA doesn't change or isn't impacted. So that's one of the things we need to note. That's not to say this isn't tracked. So what we're going to look at now is how this comes out in the reporting. And what we work on is an accuracy score. So with our binary, it's quite a simple 0 or 1. So either yes, I agreed, or no, I didn't. So the accuracy there would be 0, for instance. But when it's a 3-point scale, like readability, if I'm here, then actually the accuracy is 50% because I've only moved it 1 out of 3, rather than saying it was a complete misalignment. So that's the important thing to notice. We do track accuracy to see how aligned you are with the system models. You, of course, have full control over the custom prompt models. And how this looks like in the reporting, as we will see here in the dashboard, is, of course, the reviews and auto QA. So if you remember, reviews is everything that we're manually submitting. This is why we, even if you're using auto QA to help you grade, you still need to submit that review manually with or without comments in order for it to count to the IQS. And this is for just that reason, as it can't be trained or learned. So you would need to make adjustments so that you're not kind of over relying on AI if it doesn't fit your grading system. And that's fantastic. Everything we submit, we can see here. We can check all those categories. But of course, what's really interesting is that scale up that we get. And so the beauty of custom prompt, at least as I can see it, is at the, with auto QA, with our system categories, you get that amazing amount of scale. For, originally it was 8 categories, but now it's, up to 18 categories based on what we are looking to implement. So we're now moving forwards in a way of, you can start to automate a lot of the review process. You can assign more valuable tasks to your human reviewers. It could be they leave better comments, they do kind of more in-depth analysis of the ticket itself rather than spend time grading. And you can also pull out wider trends and data thanks to the AQS dashboard. Now, the comparison here isn't ginormous because, again, this is containing demo data, but a lot of the tickets will be scanned, remembering that if the ticket is closed and solved, if the agent working the ticket is recognized in both Zendesk and Zendesk QA, which for all of our newest accounts, as in from September of last year to now, as a native app, should be pulled through automatically. And of course, is there at least one customer and one agent message with around 10 words each, just to give it enough data to start working? And so that's why you might see not all your conversations are reviewed, but they will be assessed or analyzed. You can drill down into this at any time, and it gives you a link to the review in Zendesk QA, a link to the ticket in Zendesk, when it was created, who was reviewed, and what their AQS would be. So you have that high-level view of how they've performed for that ticket. We then can start to see the acceptance rate. So remembering how often we agree with, so how often we don't change the auto grading before submitting, and then when we do change it, by what factor. And so as we can see here, the ratings by accuracy level and what that means. So anything between 75 and 100% is obviously really good, as I'm sure we're aware with any tool and even AI, it can make some mistakes. It likely will. They won't be the same as a human, but it's important to understand that within a margin for error, that's good to work with. The other bonus is that with custom prompt, we can edit and tweak the prompt to kind of better match our needs. So it's an important thing to remember there. Of course, we have our AQS. So this is what our automated quality score would be. So purely AI driven. The only way we obviously interact with this is when we change and tweak those prompts. And some category insights. So for those system categories, how are we scoring and how accurate is it? And we can look into any of those conversations to get a drill down. Any custom categories that we have active on a scorecard, so we don't have a load, but obviously there we can see, is it being graded or not, and to what degree? So that's also fantastic. And then, of course, those category scores per reviewee. So we can start to understand how agents are performing at a global scale, regardless of the small sample that we're able to manually QA and review. And if we need to, we can download this tab. So pulling out the data individually, even if we want, download the individual tab itself, as opposed to the entire dashboard. And then I think what's really nice is if we're making a spotlight, so rather than it being a category that we're grading, but pulling out those wider trends, so like product feedback, we have the ability in our additional filters to actually filter by custom spotlight. So in the last year, where did Auto QA detect, any of these spotlights we've made? I'll use knowledge gap and see, but for instance, let's say we're doing this for reporting purposes. We can say, okay, in the last year, actually, we've seen no knowledge gaps based on how we've configured it. So really useful. Hopefully we'll save a lot of time now trying to analyze tickets, and that you're able to really start to leverage AI and push and go even further. And the reporting keeps everything nice and clear. Quickly pause here to see if we have any questions. I can see there's something in the chat. Ashcon, yep. So for those of us who don't have all the features activated, would you mind recapping? Yes, of course. I'll go through that, and it will be available in the recording. But that's a great way to kind of just summarize everything we have done. So once you've filled in the access form, as I have shared with you there, we will look to have a quick turnaround and get you activated. What you will then see is you come into your settings in the top right, and as an admin or account manager, this is an important point to make. You go into the main settings, you will see you have a new shiny AI section, and the hologram again lets us know we're in the right place. When we click into AI, it now gives you a breakdown of all of the AI insights we have created, whether they're being used as a category in a spotlight, what type they are. So is it prompt based? Is it text match? Is it system? Whether it's active, meaning are we using this and do we want it live on the account, providing feedback, when the last updates were made, and actually the description for it. And of course, from here, we can either edit that, we can mark it as inactive if we need to free up some space, or we can delete it entirely. Remembering that if it's inactive, that means the data is kept, but the category is no longer performing, or spotlight even. When we delete it, that's when all associated data is also removed from the platform. So just an important thing to note there of, for cleanup, it might be one works better than the other. And then now to actually start building this out, we want to come to create AI insight. And you will find either prompt-based or exact text match. Exact text match, as we said, is for just those words or phrases we're looking to find within messages. And prompt-based is our, the cutting edge. I'm hesitant to say bleeding edge, but the cutting edge of AI for QA. And so you're able to either write a name and prompt yourself entirely, or leverage the prompt library. And of course, there's conditions for learning about prompting and for best practices, trying to give as much content and enablement as possible. When we have done it, so I'm going to do, maybe a bad example here, but I'll just say, like upsell offer. Did the agent offer to upgrade the customer account? And then remembering that we validate, we get our feedback to say how it would work best as category or spotlight, so which one we'd like. Then we create. And now if we want to do that obviously, again, not now, but otherwise, if we're ready to go, we go to those scorecards. The one we've already made, for instance. Now I can add a category. There's upsell offer. And because it's a custom prompt, currently it's only a binary rating system. And of course, I can give a different weight if I wanted. Maybe we're like really focused on upsell, which I think would be a little bit crazy. So I'm just going to put 40. And now this is active on the scorecard and taking effect from then. So as soon as I click publish, it's now live. And remembering that if I now go to the dashboards, I won't have insights for it because it's only just been added. And so it will take, it'll take time to build the data as it's a forward thinking change rather than a retroactive cleaning up old tickets. Hopefully that's good. Are you able to track the knowledge articles linked with this feature? Latrivia, so this isn't something we can currently do. It's not a wild request though, so thank you for raising this. We will we'll note it again as more questions come from the webinar. What we do see very often is, yes, this is requested. It can't be done at the moment, so what you would need to do is the prompt itself needs to contain all the relevant information that you are looking for or would like the AI to have. That's because it's not able to access links. So knowing that there's a character limit to what you can put, if you have, let's say, a lengthy knowledge base article and you would like to condense it, best practices from our team is take the content of the knowledge base article and you could, for example, put into ChatGPT, Gemini, please help me construct a prompt in less than 2,000 characters that helps summarize this knowledge base article and will also assess yes or no, did an agent follow the procedure? And so something like that, and it would then give you an output that is much more condensed, much more relevant. And it might be, it needs to be broken into 2 prompts, but you can then copy and paste that output into your prompt. And it's been written as such that the AI itself is telling itself how best to look for these processes. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. Obviously, as and when innovation becomes available, it will be released. And I think this is also a great excuse. So thank you for the question, Najivia, that if you're following our announcements page that I've just linked here. So this is where all the new releases for Zendesk in general come, but especially QA as well. I myself follow it. I've set up a filter so that I only that QA ones stay in my inbox, but other ones are taken to a different one if it interests you. I mean, otherwise it's max like 2 or 3 emails every few days. But also you can see the speed of innovation for Zendesk. That's quite nice. And then I see here another one from Ashcon. Also curious if you have any thoughts on whether or not there are any good reasons to avoid using the AI feature straight away for new customers using the Zendesk QA, if it's best practice to immediately set up the classic scorecards, etc. At the same time as all the AI QA features. Amazing question. Thank you, Ashcon. I would say no. There's no reason to fear using AI early. What I would recommend, and Inesh can keep me honest here, is to first understand the platform and weave the AI into it. So the only danger would be if you prioritize AI over an understanding of the QA platform. For example, we're seeing here how to build out these scorecards, but this is at the end of a 3-part journey, so that when you're comfortable with how filters work, how assignments work, how grading, comments, feedback, dispute process works, I think it's great because then the AI is like a really big value add, rather than AI straight away with no real understanding of then how you as a human can interact and get the most from the platform. That's not to say that the most efficient way isn't working together, but I think the danger can sometimes be too much is placed on the AI, or maybe a misalignment with what you're expecting the AI to do leads to a negative impact for something which actually can be solved within the platform. So I think best practice is definitely to set up your scorecard, get system categories on a scorecard at least, play around with the prompts, have some of them set up, and then start practicing, leave some nice reviews, leave some dummy reviews, see if you're aligning with the grading itself. And that data will obviously help guide you. But alongside that, not neglecting your fundamentals like the reporting, the assignments, and of course like root causes, which is great for kind of a deeper analysis and bigger structure into your feedback process. Also, I see Inesh is handling some there. Thank you very much, Inesh. And looking at the time, we can also now jump to bot QA. So this is a, let's say, slight move across. This is still leveraging AI, but this is where the worlds of AI agents and AI start to collide in a very positive way, we hope. And so you'll notice a few things. If in users, bots, and workspaces, you have noticed that there is some bots being identified. If you're using a Zendesk native bot, so for instance, an advanced AI agent or Sunco, a standard kind of answer bot, these will be pulled through automatically into Zendesk QA. So by default, we will recognize them as soon as they start doing interactions within their instance or Zendesk itself. You do have the ability to manually mark a bot, and this is a separate process that takes a few more steps and requires first a user to be added in Zendesk, which is the bot. Then you would manually mark it as a bot from your users. So how does that look? If we have someone who's not an admin, so Abdullah, for instance, wait, I'm trying to find, if someone's logged in, then it's very hard to mark them as a bot. But normally, here we go, for instance. So Adam Stepien, he's an admin, so I'm unable to, but what we could do is actually mark him as a bot, meaning that it would then be transferred to our bots area, and so it's treated as a chatbot. So there's certain features that are activated and certain that are unactivated. The email address can't be logged in from, it loses access to the platform, but at any time we can change it back to a user and all their access is granted again. We can see when the last chat was, so when it last pulled through. So for instance, 6 days ago, I may or may not be worried. If my Zendesk QA bot is actually dealing with tickets every hour, then this is a worry, as well as Riley's bot hasn't done anything, but otherwise just good to do a bit of a health check. What does reviewable mean? This is to say that we would like auto QA to be applied to the bot. So as we saw in previous interactions where the bot could be graded by our scorecard, if we mark this as no, we can still grade it manually, but it just means that none of the AI categories will apply, including custom prompt. So we might want to keep this as a yes for those very reasons. When creating custom prompts for bots, it's the exact same process as our normal custom prompts that will work on text channels. And actually, at this moment in time, there's no differentiation between the bot and the human interactions for the custom prompt. What do I mean by this? If I make a custom prompt that is, did the bot use abusive language? Even if I call it bot, it's still going to be scanning all those tickets. It doesn't say I'm only going to look at bot tickets. So it's just something to be aware of. But what you can do is filter by participant or by the bot to make sure that it's actually only a chatbot there working in it. So nothing to worry about. If anything, it's a benefit that it's doing more work rather than less. But when we have these bots coming in, it will start to recognize their interactions by default. One important thing to note is bot QA in its current form works on messenger tickets. So if you're using an advanced AI agent for kind of pure bot resolutions in the messenger channel, we automatically ingest them and we automatically recognize that bot. So you don't need to create tickets for every interaction in Zendesk. For email, for instance, it doesn't automatically pick that up. So what it needs to do is it will bring the ticket in and then it would start treating the ticket like a normal text-based ticket. So just something to know for this current iteration of bot QA. But the good news is I think we see a lot of it is messenger driven, and actually that is very low touch in terms of how do I get it into the platform and how do I start having AI work on it. It will all happen by default, even if there's no escalation and human touch point getting involved. When we are bringing through these bots and seeing other interactions. We then get access to the third dashboard of the day, which is our bot QA dashboard. And so we set, our date range, and it lets us see how many bot only conversion rates we had. So again, this will be set by default for those Zendesk native tools, so advanced AI agents and kind of inbuilt answer bots, because the tickets are being pulled through automatically. So, or not tickets, sorry, I should say the interaction is being pulled through automatically, even if there's not a ticket created. And so when there is a ticket created and it's escalated to a human, we know this is the escalation. And so that's how we're able to do for the complete resolutions or automated resolutions versus the escalated human-led resolution. We can track it over time, and some kind of standout metrics that might help us, which we need to drill into. So where there's been negative and positive sentiment, understand where this has come from. We can, of course, drill into these, actually jump into those tickets themselves, or download all the data entirely. And we can create filters, and because of this, also assignments where we focus on, bot-specific features. So a certain amount of replies from the bot, a particular bot, or even a particular type. So if we have them marked, as workflow or generative, we can isolate these conversations. And then, so for example, false resolution bot detected, we could put this in and then combine it just to make sure it is focusing on the bot, where the one used is Zendesk QA bot. And so there we go. We have 80 tickets, and now when it's actually the bot, we can see, less. So it's just been false resolution, but maybe for different conversations. But this is how we narrow down and reduce that margin for error. And so that's where we have the bot QA. It's the level it's at. It's great for doing kind of due diligence on the actual conversations themselves. Obviously, in the platform that you have to report on your AI agent, that will give you more insight into kind of the raw data and metrics. But in terms of quality control or quality assurance on the actual ticket content, fantastic to use QA for that and leverage some of those spotlights and insights. And of course, you can combine it with any help desk tags that are being applied to tickets. Let's see. So we have an article how to do that for manual reviews. Apologies, Mackenzie. Has this been answered? Oh, yeah, of course. Inesh answered. Awesome. Any options for scheduled reporting yet? Yes. So as Inesh says, not available yet. And yeah, please do share in the Zendesk community page, as I know our product managers are sizing up the need. So if you're able to provide feedback, they do go there, they look, and they collect all these use cases. So please feel free to share that in Zendesk community. It'd be doing us a big favor as well, as these new features are fun to talk about for us, and obviously driving value for yourselves is a massive part of what we're looking to do, especially why we run these webinars. So I think I'll open the floor now to questions. We obviously have a good 10 minutes left. To summarize what we've looked at today, it's the AI track within Zendesk QA. So what have we looked at? We've looked at auto QA and those auto insights and grading, whether that be system categories that are the or the centrally trained AI models, whether it's custom prompt where the power is very much in your hands and you can leverage all manner of insight and AI tools to help build and construct them. There's text match, sort of the forgotten cousin of the advanced AI, which can sometimes be very useful. And then looking at how that applies in the real world. So we can see here there's been some AI grading and there's some spotlights applied to the tickets that can help us understand the individual interaction better, but also at scale, as we saw in the AQS dashboard. And then finally, we took a quick run through bot QA and how with our Zendesk native tools, it's pulling through automatically, but that we do have the option to manually add AI agents as well if we're perhaps using something that sits outside the platform. So maybe it's an ADA or a custom build. And really, we just, thank you for joining. We really hope that this has provided you some value. The recording for this will be available later. And of course, if you have joined this webinar, then you're familiar with our Bevy page. So I will also add the link there to this session where you can probably find the recording and other resources as well as previous recordings. We do have a YouTube playlist, an extensive knowledge base. And as I mentioned, the announcements page is a great place to follow for all new and upcoming releases, sometimes before we even know about them. So if you want to get one over on the team, that's never a bad place to visit. And finally, and I will share it just one additional time in case anyone missed it, here is the early access form for that custom prompt feature that we looked at in great detail. There's a lot of resource now already inbuilt into the platform once activated. So if you're curious and keen, please sign up. We will turn it around quick and look to get you activated within. We kind of regularly check the sheet and are able to enable it. Otherwise, the general availability date is 30th of September. I have spoken at length, so I will pause here. Know that we do have a few minutes left for any questions. Obviously, a huge thank you to Anesh for supporting and answering your questions in the chat. And yes, we have sort of 5 minutes, so we'll kind of sit quietly and address anything that comes in. Okay, I can see a slow decline in the number of participants, so I will take that as a sign we would like a few minutes back in your day. Thank you all so much for joining the series. Please feel free to watch the recordings. Sign up again if you'd like. It doesn't have to be straight away, but maybe in a quarter or so's time if you'd like a refresher. You're always more than welcome. We'd love to hear from you. Any feedback for product updates, of course, via the community. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Yes, Denise, I will share the YouTube link with you now. Let me see. Let's get it up. Here you go. So this playlist, it has some of these sessions. It has some of our older sessions, so things might look a bit different. It has other languages, as well as a few smaller sessions that are kind of feature deep dives. So if you're looking for the kind of the intro twos or the Zendesk, the longer running sessions, the kind of 20 minutes plus, are the ones where it will be recordings of a version of this session. Otherwise, on the Bevy platform, I think also links out to additional resource. So hopefully you feel covered, you feel safe, and of course we always invite you to reach out, let the team know if there's anything you need. We work very closely with the advocacy team, and so thank you all very much for joining, and I will give everyone back 5 minutes of your day. Take care, and we hope to speak to you soon. Cheers. Goodbye.